Kia ora. Good morning. I forgot to explain one bit about the dream in regards to my mother-in-law that I want to explain now. I've just made my second coffee and had something to eat. um, so the bit about my mother-in-law in the dream, when you dream about boyfriends, husbands of the past, it's talking about obviously you need to look at your past relationships and the effect they had on you. My mother-in-law in the dream in particular is because very similar things happened to her that happened to me in regards to her husband after 30 odd years of being a, loyal housewife and mother. She got discarded and thrown in the trash like she was nothing, because her husband was cheating on her and found somebody else. My ex had done that in the beginning of our relationship, but I stuck with it. But I, after Chris did what he did to me, I found a newfound respect for my mother-in-law, because I then realised what she was forced to have to go through to change her life. She lost everything too, including her children. Well, she didn't lose Michael. Michael was loyal to her, but Chris turned her back. We no longer had contact with her, and she lost the home that she'd raised her family in. She had to, where had a husband to support her all those years. She then had to make it on her own, and she was put through she didn't deserve to be treated the way she was treated. After, when you're a wife where it's agreed upon that you are the wife and you keep the house and you raise the kids and all that sort of thing, and you've dedicated your life to your spouse and your kids, you deserve to be treated a lot better than what you were. And she wasn't perfect. When a marriage breaks down, no one person is to blame. You both have to hold your hands up to admit your faults and where you went wrong and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into that publicly, because she doesn't deserve to have her laundry aired in public. But I felt sorry for her. I stood in her shoes. I walked a mile in her shoes, and then I realised, that she absolutely was a victim of a toxic marriage with a husband who absolutely did not appreciate her. It was all about him. Me, 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 me. Well, she sat at home, he went out and socialised, and everything like Chris, like father, like son. And that's one of the reasons why he had the blackheads and the pimples, and why it was all pussy and infected, because he'd learned toxic traits from his father. And one of my biggest fears is that my boys are going to end up like their father. And I used to say to them, just promise me that whenever you're in a relationship, if you ever want to be with somebody else, leave the relationship first before you enter the other relationship. Do not cheat on your partners, because it is the ultimate insult when you're a wife or a husband and you have dedicated your life to serving them so that they can go out and work and provide. And when it's agreed upon that this is going to be your role in life, and then it is completely disregarded because someone else catches their fancy. The coward's way is to have affairs and then to blame the other partner. Well, I cheated because you did this. There's no excuse. If you can't keep your knickers on or keep it in your pants, leave the relationship before you cheat, because cheating is the coward's way. you're not man enough or woman enough to take on the responsibility of healing the relationship. You're looking for an excuse to leave, and then of course when you get caught or then you admit it, you immediately blame the other person. That's what Chris did all the time. It was always my fault. I know that I wasn't perfect in our marriage. I was so unhappy. I ate my feelings and I got fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter. And all I wanted to do was just pour all my time and energy into my children and helping them feed their creative minds and their imagination and all that, because I knew who they were as individuals and how creative and smart they were. So I poured all my time into them and building my future, which is now the foundation. I didn't want to be a part of him because he was getting darker and angrier. You know, every time we had a fight, he would immediately threaten to take his own. You know, I'm just going to go and do this, and you know, you can be done with me. And living with that kind of fear when you love someone, it messes with your head. And in the end, I gave up trying because I stopped caring about him, because he wasn't putting in any effort into me and the boys. Every excuse he had to go off and work and be away from us, he used it. So then, of course, when everything fell apart, when he admitted, when my boys said to him, when did you fall in love with mum, and you know, when did you know that you wanted to marry mum and that? And he said, I've never been in love and I never wanted to get married and have kids. That's when I knew our marriage was over. He'd given me the perfect opportunity to end the marriage. My mistake was I should have left, but he talked me into staying for the sake of finances and things like that, and it got worse because then he started going out and hanging out with his friends and turning into a vampire, and like literally, and locking us inside and feeding us food through the door and all that sort of thing. And he manipulated me enough to let me think that that way of living was okay, that it was better for the kids than for me to be a single mum living on benefits until I was able to get investors and, you know, have the opportunity to build my school. His mother had her faults. We all have our faults. Nobody's perfect, but she didn't deserve to be treated the way she was treated by her ex and by her son, Chris. And he was just like his father. Some of the hurtful things that his father said to hurt Chris, he then turned around and used on my boys. And so the whole meeting her in the forest and her taking the boys and the misunderstanding, and that she's representing the toxic traits that were passed down through trusting the wrong men in the Mr. Black and Christopher Black, father and son. And her representing the mother in us, the ex-wife in us wanting to make sure that the traits of the father and son aren't passed on to the grandsons. My worst fear, other than obviously Starmer and Trump and, you know, the coalition of Epsteiners and that getting their hands on kids, is that my sons turn out like their father. And I've always said that. Disregarding the people you're in a relationship with, having no respect for women, having no respect for your body, that you know, sleep around, trawling the internet looking for people, looking for victims. His victims all seem to be single mums who are creative, who have depression and mental health instabilities, who are empathic. And then he uses and I know this for a fact because I've been told by some of his victims who are prepared to testify in court, oh, my ex-wife was crazy and I had to step up to be the man and the mum, and then they feel sorry for him, and that's how he lures them in. Yeah, no, look, he was showing them letters, the letter for them to that he got when he was told that I was being let out, even though he's not my next of kin and it was none of his business. The hospital told him because they were all in on it in the end. You know, we know why now. Like now we know why. But that he wasn't supposed to be on my next of kin thing, and they promised me that they were legally removing him off my next of kin stuff. But yeah, he was using that letter to take to his victims to say, look, I'm like this poor. I had to step up and stuff like that. But he wasn't saying it's because I domestically abused her, sexually abused her, and was drugging her to make her look crazy so that when I got rid of her, I would have access to all her products and books, and, you know, I could make a name off everything she created. So he'd pull at their heartstrings. Could you help me buy my son a jacket? I don't know how to do it. He couldn't do any of it. So then he was finding women to take my place because he didn't know how to be a mum. While he was still locking them inside and going off to sleep with other women and get drunk and smoke cigarettes. And I only just found out, I thought he'd given up smoking. I gave up smoking the second I found out I was pregnant with Thomas. He told me he'd given up smoking, but he was still smoking. So he smokes, he drinks, he does drugs, he, you know, sleeps around, has unprotected sex, all that sort of thing, and he's passing that toxicity on to all the other women. You know, some of those spiders in that dream will be all the other women. And Chris's mum was just as disrespected, although his dad didn't do drugs and that I know of, but the narcissistic traits of a Libra. When you are a Libra who is unhealed from things, you immediate because they rule like luxury. They rule not vanity but identity. How they come across, how they appear, how they look. They are one of the star signs that are almost guaranteed to have the potential to be rich and famous is the Libra. And an unhealed one, you know, because we all have our toxic sides, we all have our in reverse sides. An unhealed toxic Libra is a narcissist. And because they rule the mind and communication, they're expert at changing the way you see things, changing your perspective, mind control, verbal abuse, venom. The stuff they say is toxic and dangerous and harmful. That's a Libra in reverse. And gaslighting, the masters of gaslighting. That's a Libra in reverse, and Chris is a Libra in reverse. His dad isn't as bad as Chris, to be honest. His father is a nice person. He's made his mistakes as well, obviously, but I have I have more respect for his father than I do for Chris, because at one point Chris's dad actually defended me against his own son. So this isn't, I'm not having a go at Chris's father. But what I'm saying is there's some things that he learnt from his father, because they're both the same star sign, that because Chris is the reverse version, he became the toxic version of the negative things that his father did in a marriage he wasn't happy in. He's in a loyal, committed relationship to the woman he left his wife for. You know, they have a good, solid relationship. Kind of like, I hate to say it, you know Prince Charles and Princess Diana. And then when that marriage ended, he got with Camilla, and now, you know, they're loyal and dedicated to each other, and they're like best friends, and she's like his rock and that sort of thing. Like that. But his mother, the way their marriage ended was so disrespectful to Caroline for the role that she played as his wife and the mother of his kids. I think that if he could go back and redo all of that, he would have done things differently. Whereas Chris, because he's the toxic version, he went about it all the dark, twisted way. Instead of just letting her go and build this school and make a name for herself and be supportive of her and have her help me in return. I don't want her being more famous than me. I don't want her making a name for herself in my industry. I don't want her being known for being better at being creative than me because I'm the artist. I'm the art director. It's all about me, 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 me. Instead of working on himself and saying, hey, look, I'm feeling insecure about this life you're building for yourself because it turns out you're actually smarter than I am, and I don't want people to know that because I've spent my whole divorce painting myself out to be the victim of a psychopath and bully. Can you help me work on myself? He just decided to, I'm going to listen to everything they're saying and use it against her to take the kids off her, to hurt her, to punish her, and steal everything out from under her. And as soon as she starts cottoning on to what's going on, I'm just going to kill her. Just poison her. Had it fed into his ear, just poison her. If she's not going to go, just get rid of her, you know? So luckily his dad never was anything like that, and this is no disrespect to him. I'm talking about his mother and the way that she was treated as a wife and mother after dedicating herself for 30 odd years. She was just discarded like she was nothing. And it's why I always said that, you know, when the boys and I got out of here, I want to establish a relationship with the boys, with her, so that they've got a grandparent in their life, like an active grandparent. She's the sort of grandmother who would be ringing us, you know, every other day, checking in on us, texting us, buying the kids presents, feeding the boys, you know, when we came to visit and that sort of thing. And then if the boys ever wanted to go and visit her on their own, they could. You know, I want her to have that relationship with the boys that she was denied because Chris turned his back on her. When the marriage ended, he used the divorce and what happened between his parents as an excuse to take his rage out on his mother. He punished his mother for the things he refused to heal in himself. He blamed her for everything. He blamed her for everything when really she was just an overprotective mother. She lived for her kids, and it was twisted to look like she was this overbearing, gossiping. I mean, okay, like I said, she wasn't perfect, and her family didn't treat me very well. Like, honestly, I was put through shit from her family and that, but she had wonderful things about her that weren't focused on, that deserved to be focused on, but people were so busy focusing on the things that were being said about her, the misunderstandings of how she was as a wife and mother, that her good traits, her positive traits weren't being focused on. And she suffered a lot. And her heart was broken for a long time, and she didn't deserve it. And she was beautiful, absolutely stunning to look at. She's one of these women that just got better, you know, got more beautiful the longer, you know, like as she aged. Just absolutely stunning. She was a victim of her own environment, and then she suffered the consequences of men who refused to heal themselves and admit that they had faults. And she got blamed for a lot of things that she didn't deserve to be blamed for. And I want to heal that with her. I want to heal that part with her. I want to be able to go to her and sit down and you know, say, as women, as mothers, as the mother to my babies, as the grandmother to my babies, let's work together to heal this dynamic for the sake of the boys. She would absolutely 100% be on with that. And then, like wherever it is that I immigrate to, she would absolutely, I'd invite her to come and stay, and she would. I know she would. And then they'd have their uncle, Michael, and then we could like start again. And that's why she was in that dream. Misunderstandings and justice bringing us back together, where we're able to work together for the sake of the boys, which is why we were in the park and the forest bit, because it's all to do with seeing, not seeing the wood for the wood for the trees, but because there was a park attached that was open to the public, and that it's like working together to, and like clearing it all away in order to build something new, and plant something new for the sake of the boys. The women, the matriarchy in Thomas and Gabriel's lives, working together to build something healthier for the sake of the boys. And that's the bit that I forgot to interpret in the dream, so I'm just doing that now. I have no ill feeling towards Chris's father. He's a lovely man, very smart, dedicated his whole life to serving Edinburgh, like as a plumber. He's done some incredibly selfless things. He also is one of the only people in this whole connection with Chris who defended me. And so this isn't about him. I'm not painting him in any negative kind of way. We all make mistakes, and he's built a new life for himself, and he's happy and he's at peace. What I'm talking about, how it ended, the way that she was treated, because she lost a lot of, she lost his side of the family. She lost like mutual friends, just like me. I lost everything because of Chris, and it was all torn down, and I had to start again. So she was in the dream because it's like her and I went through very similar things. Both been cheated on, had to start again. The gaslighting, and being blamed for things we weren't responsible for, which are the blackheads and pimples, and the way that we behaved and all of that. Like she's representing all of that, and how I'm working really hard to make sure that none of the toxic traits from the boy's father's side, rubs off on my boys. So the fact that Gabriel was in the bed holding the Game Boy, playing with the Game Boy, while I was just so easily brushing off the blackheads and that, I'm hoping it means that it's not going to rub off on the boys. Because in the first dream, when he was on top of me, and it was all like the pustules and that were bursting and dripping onto him, and that he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't admitting. He won't admit to anything that he's done wrong. He won't admit that he is a toxic person. He won't admit that he's unhealed and toxic and dangerous. So that's why everything was bursting and pustulating and just like hanging off him. Ugh. Whereas I was able to just wash it off, just brush it off, which means that he's unhealed and I'm healed. But because I'm healed and his mother was there, I'm gonna be able to do enough that what I went through as a result of their father and the wider environment and his bloodline won't rub off on the boys. That maybe and them witnessing both sides of it, it's going to be their life lesson to know I never want to be like, I'm not going to put anyone through that because that's horrible. Nobody wants to be known for what Chris is getting known for. No man in their right mind would ever want to have the reputation that Chris has now gotten because of it's not just me coming out and saying that he's like this, it's other women as well. So we can't all be wrong and we can't all be crazy. Do you know what I mean? But because he's so cracked in the head, because he's so mentally unstable, and refuses to admit that he was the problem all along, that's why his skin was all pustulated and pussy and all the blackheads and like ugh, and the pus was green coming out of his pimples and that it was all green and septic. And then when he took the prophylactic off, it was full of blood and pus and that. So I wonder if he's gotten an STD. What's the ones that gives you blood and pus? Is that gonorrhea? Syphilis? Syphilis drives you nuts. Drives you crazy. And he had Santaro, Katie and Jodie. He was sleeping with at least 4 or 5 women at the same time, other than San, who was online, and he wasn't using protection with any of them. And that's why his name is on an online watch list. Women going online and saying, don't date this man. Like, you know, like where you get to, you can't put in personal details, but you can put in their name and stuff. Because he's now online known as a Shrexrol's predator. So that's why his mother was in the dream. She's representing, hopefully, her and I coming together to heal the boys so that they never end up being the product of the result of their toxic father. So I just had to explain it. Because, you know, she's the grandmother. She's the mother of the man that did this to me. She's the mother of the man that blamed her for everything. She's the mother of the man that punished her for the mistakes of his father and things that he wouldn't admit to on his own. And he had really bad skin growing up. He used to get called baked bean face. Oh, yeah, which is why I said some of them are the size of like 4 or 5 baked beans. Because he had really, really bad skin, to the point where he had to have medical treatment for it and underwent cutting edge medical treatment to fix his skin. And then when he got with me, I used my products to get rid of the pock marks and stuff. And I was using my products to fix my son's skin, who had the same problems, because around his, like, he's not eating healthy, he's not looked after, and you know your stress, the state of your mind shows on your face. And my baby, I mean, he said to me once that he feels so dirty there that when he comes to live with me, he reckons he'd have like a 90-minute shower just to wash it all off. So, trying to save my babies. And then when I get them out of here, once all the misunderstandings are cleared up and I get justice, then hopefully I can bring their grandmother in to help me heal the boys so that they have the support of the women, you know, because they'll have their Auntie Erin in that as well. So, because he's made them think that women are just trash. So, yeah. So I need to, I've got to get my boys away from them. I've got to get my boys away from them. From him, from Andy, his mistress Andy, the one that stole my book. got to get my boys away from them. That my worst fear, other than the coalition of Epstein, is getting their hands on the children of the future, is that they're going to end up just like their father. Racist, a womanizer, has no respect for their body, has no respect for women, has no respect for... Yeah. Anyway, he's on a descending path. And it's one of the reasons why the man that I do bring into our life, the one that, I had some test subjects before that failed miserably, ones that had potentials that failed miserably, didn't want to get to know my boys, didn't put in any effort to get to know my boys, even though my boys wanted to get to know them. And then, of course, after a couple of weeks, seeing their true nature and that, it just, no, not good, and it let go. Of the 5 men that I tried to get to know on a personal level over the course of 10.5 years, so 1 man every 2 years I tried to get to know technically, although it was kind of like in a little short frame of time, I mean, because I was trying to hurry up and find my protector, that I was letting the wrong potentials come to my door. But now I know. But see, that's the thing. Because of, in the dream, everything that Chris put me through, everything Martin put me through, everything Paul put me through, everything the potentials put me through, taught me to spot the red flags. So now I know what to avoid. And anyone who tries now, nope. Because I'm not bringing any man near my boys who, if they end up deciding to want to call him dad, doesn't deserve the label. He has to be someone that's worthy of the position of being a positive male role model in my 2 boys' lives. I want him to be everything that I want my boys to be when they turn into men, and they're like nearly 16 and just turned 17 now. So, yeah. So whoever comes into their life now is coming into their life to be who they're going to be when they become men. And so I want him to be a positive male role model, worthy enough that they might want to call him dad one day. Because anyone can be a father, but not everyone's built to be a dad. So, yeah. So that's what that whole thing dreaming about with my mother and ex-mother-in-law being in the dream. I just had to explain because I forgot. So I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō. Mwah.